Hello guys, welcome to ePython Lab. In this session, you are going to learn how to clean data and what is data cleansing also, and you can understand some important topics in this session. After completing this session, you are going to learn cleaning US Census data. So subscribe to our YouTube channel and like, share, and stay with us and learn a lot about data cleansing with Pandas library. So first of all, what is data cleansing or data cleansing or data cleaning? Data cleansing or data cleaning is the process of detecting or correcting or removing corrupted or inaccurate records from our data set or our table or database. So that is refers to identifying incomplete, incorrect, or inaccurate or irrelevant parts of our data and then replacing, modifying, or deleting the dirty or coarse of data. That is called data cleansing. So that is just our data may contain corrupted records, inaccurate records, or irrelevant records. So detecting and correcting or removing that corrupted, inaccurate records from our data is called data cleansing. That is the process of data cleansing. So data cleansing may be performed interactively with data wrangling tools. So we may use different data wrangling tools to perform interactivity of our data or our data cleansing. So as batch processing through scripting, Python script, you can learn more about how we can deal with data. So high quality data needs to pass a set of quality criteria. So our data should pass those quality criteria: the validity, accuracy, completeness, consistency, and uniformity. If our data pass through this high quality data measurement criteria, so our data is ready for other stages, for the next stages. So it should pass through this quality criteria: the validity, accuracy, completeness, and consistency of uniformity. To overcome to those criteria, we are going to deal with data cleansing and removing inappropriate or irrelevant parts of our data. So that is what data cleansing means. So data cleansing is a huge part of data science, involves acquiring raw data and getting it into a form ready for analysis. So after, because this is a huge part of every data scientist is involving acquiring raw data and that getting into a form ready for data analysis. Some have estimated that data scientists spend over 80% of their time cleaning and manipulating data. Only 20% of their time actually analyzing the data or building models from the data. That is some estimation. The estimation shows that over 80% of data scientists spend their time on data cleansing and manipulation, and the other 20% of their time actually analyzing the data or building models for the data from the data. And when we receive our data, we have to do a lot of things before we are ready to analyze the data. Possibly includes the diagnosing the tidiness of the data and how much data cleaning we will have to do, reshaping the data, getting right rows and columns for effective analysis, that is reshaping, combining different or multiple files together, that is merging, and changing the type of values. Some values may be in different types, so we are required to change into the same standard types of the values of the data. So how we fix a column where numerical values are stored as strings, for example, and dropping or filling missing values, that is dealing with missing data, how we deal with the data that is incomplete or missing. And the other is manipulate strings to represent the data bearer. So we'll go through the techniques data scientists use to accomplish these goals by looking at some unclean data sets and trying to get them into a good and clean state. The first is diagnose the data. So we have data set, raw data set, and we may obtain that raw data set from different sources. So we are going to diagnose that data, raw data. We often describe the data that is easy to analyze and visualize as tidy data. You can read about tidy data. What does it mean? What does tidy data mean? To have tidy data, for data to be tidy, it must have each variable as a separate column and each row as a separate observation. That is the tidy data. So our raw data may not be in this separate column or separate observation. So we are going to deal with that and to make it tidy. For example, we would want to reshape a table like, for example, we have a table, account checking saving, accounts numbers, checking balances and saving balances. So this is not a tidy data. So we are going to reshape this data and make it tidy. Because all the columns are the variables, each variables are separate columns here, checking savings. So there are two types of accounts, first of all, checking and savings. So we are going to create a separate column for the type of accounts and the amount for each type of the accounts. Into a table that looks more like account type, checking, saving, the amount for each account. For example, the first account, the type is checking, and the amount for checking is this one. Yeah, there is some disorder. Okay, that's okay. The first step of diagnosing whether or not a dataset is tidy is using Pandas function to explore and probe the dataset. So we are going to use a Pandas functions to check whether our dataset is tidy or not. Some of the most useful ones are head. This is the most important to explore the first 5 rows of our data. Info that displays the summary of the table, the Pandas table, and also display the summary statistics of the table, and columns display the column names of the table, and don't values display the distinct values for a column. So those are the most common uses, useful functions of Pandas. So we are checking using these functions. And the next is reshaping the data. Since we wanted to reshape our data, so each variable as a separate column and each row as a separate observation. We would want to reshape a table look like this. This is the original table, and we want to reshape this table into a table look like this. So the column, so the type of account is in a separate column, is the amount of the each account type is in a separate column. So each variable as a separate column, each row as a separate observation. This is what one of the reshaping the data. So to make it ready for data analysis, we can use a pd.melt to do this transformation. To transform this kind of data into, or reshape this kind of data, we're gonna use pandas.melt function. This is a very important function to transform our data into separate columns and rows. So melt text in a data frame and the columns to unpack. There are a lot of variables, arguments, text this function. The data frame, we're going to pass into this function. ID variables or ID vars, the variables. So unpivots a data frame from a wide to long format, optionally leaving identifier set. This function is useful to massage a data frame into a format where one or more columns are identifier. Variables or ID vars, while all other columns considered measured variables, value variables, are unpivoted to the row axis, leaving just two non-identifier columns, that is variable and value. So the parameters you provide to the function is the frame, the data frame, yeah, that you wanted to transform, and the ID vars, the columns of the old data frame to preserve, the old data frame to preserve. Value vars, the columns of the old data frame that you want to turn into variables. With the values that you want to turn into variables, the value name, what to call the columns of the new data frame that stores the values, and var name, what to call the column of the new data frame that stores the variable. The default names may work in certain situations, but it's best to always have data that is self-explanatory. Thus, we often use dot columns to rename the columns after melting. So data frame dot columns and pass the list of column names into the function that is going to rename the column names after transforming our data frame. So we have a data account.csv data which contains this data. So in this transformation or reshaping the data using melt function, we pass the data frame is the def, and the ID vars is account, and the first the old data frame column name is account that we are going to transform. Value vars, so for this account, the value vars is the checking and savings, the new value vars in the new account that is checking account type, value name or var name, amount, the new column name, and var name account type. So this kind of transforming our data or reshaping our data sets is just each rows are transformed into a separate columns. I mean, each variables are transformed into a separate columns, and each values are transformed into a separate observations. So this is an introduction to data cleansing. So we are going to learn a lot about data cleansing, and we are going to work on US Census data, and you will learn a lot of things from this session. Thanks for watching.